In this video, we're going to go over dialog boxes and two particular types of dialog boxes. One, a message dialog box, and then another input dialog boxes. And they're pretty self-explanatory. A message dialog box is exactly that. It displays a message from the program to the user using a graphical user interface. Or GUI, GUI. An input dialog box does the same thing. It prompts the user for an input, and then you put it in just like as if you're typing in the console area, but instead you're using sort of like a form. So let's look at how we invoke these types of objects. So first, it's not built into the Java API, but it's a native library. So we can simply do import, and then the class is known as JOptionPane, like a window pane. So first, you'd have to type in Java X dot swing dot JOptionPane. And so now that you've imported the library, you can call the class in your main method. So first things first, what do we want to do? Well, let's simply make a message saying hello world, just like in the textbook. So JOptionPane, we'll call it JOptionPane dot show message dialog. So you have that, and the show message dialog method requires two arguments. The first argument is not that important for what we're doing here. It's for graphical windows. We don't have any graphics, so it's going to be no. All right. The second message is going to be a string, and we're going to say hello world. And that simple message will, when we run the program, it's going to process it, and we have hello world here. And we click OK, exits the program. Now I did a boo-boo. I made a slight error. Whenever you call up a JOptionPane window, you want to exit the system, or type in at the end of the method, at the end of the main method, system.exit, and then typically it would be 0. So as you see here in the code in the console area, the compiler was smart enough to know I actually meant to exit the method, and it exited without me actually um, typing in system.exit 0. But oh, and I made another error. Forgot the semicolon. Um, but when I run the program again, it pops up the hello world window again. Sorry, my particular setup, I have a dual monitor setup, and it's going to show. It's going to pop up on my other screen. I'll have to drag it over into the viewing screen. So hello world. But that's not very interactive. What if we wanted to make a program that had actual inputs? So what we do is, instead of calling the methods show message dialog, we'd type JOptionPane dot show input dialog. Now the input the arguments is exactly what you want to ask the user. So we can say enter your first name. All right, and then we want to place that we want to make sure that we place a system exit 0 here, and then we'll run the program again. Thinking about it, okay, and it popped up. So I can put it in RAB. And okay. Now the program did nothing with that data because we didn't tell it to do anything with that data. So what we can do is we can force it to say, we'll set up a string variable, call it first. We declare a string variable first, and then we want to say first is equal to whatever the user inputted, and then let's say we want to do system.out println. You want to type in, we want it to spit out whatever first is. So we'll run the program, and we'll take a little bit to think about it, and then here we can put in rab right here and click OK, and it prints out rab down here in the console area. So now that we know how to input input user data, store it into a variable, let's make a calculator. Why not? So let's here declare a integer integer variable num1, and then we'll do num2 and num3. Here we'll we'll say num1. We'll store num1 here, and we'll say enter an integer value. And here you can see that the compiler is throwing up an error. And that's due to the fact that, again, Java is a strongly typed programming language, so it automatically assumes that whatever input your user inputs here, it's going to be a string value, and you're trying to force a string into integer. That's a no-no. So what we also have to do here is declare a string input value. We'll call it input string. And here we'll go ahead and just store the value input string, the value of the integer here into input string, and then what we also will have to do is we'll have to convert the input string into an integer. And how we do that is we'll just put num1 is equal to integer that parse integer, and then we'll say input string, and that solves the error. But then we also have to type in we'll have to get the other value as well. So we'll type in input string is equal to JOptionPane dot show input, and then we'll do enter an integer value. We'll enter another integer value. And then we'll have to set num2 is equal to integer that parse integer input string. So from there we can add, say num3 is equal to num1, and this time we'll say we'll multiply times num2. And then we want to do a JOptionPane dot show message dialog box, and then null. and then we'll say num3. And the system out is no longer needed. And then we already have our system.exit 0 status. So what we did here is we declared integer values num1, num2, num3, created a string input. Input string is in that input string is a sort of a holder variable, so we can convert that input string from the user into an actual integer. And then we took the two integers that are inputted by the user and then multiplied them, and then sent out the value. We can also sort of describe this a bit. We could say the product of the two integers is space close boop, add that together, and we should be good. Let's run the program. So we're going to I drug my recording window to my secondary screen, so there's some weird graphic cards issues, so you can actually see the JOptionPane window pop up. So integer value, enter an integer value, so we'll put 2. Enter another integer value, we'll put 2. Product of the two integers is 4. So that's the code. So the big takeaway out of this is that JOptionPane is a powerful tool, powerful graphical user interface, and if we get far enough in the course, we'll show you a couple more very powerful tools that you can interact with the user through GUIs.